Item 6, members' questions. Councillor Osborne.
Question number 1 to the Leader, please.
I thank Councillor Osborne for his question, and the answer, Part A, is set out in a tabular form. I note that in last cycle we saved £2,645,000 of council expenditure, of which I understand that the Labour Party voted against £800,000 worth of savings. It looks that, reading the report that they released early today, that they've actually accepted all the savings. So, in fact, despite their voting against, they are in fact for all these savings. So that's an interesting observation to make. Part B sort of refers to the Independent Commission report, and there's a fairly detailed answer, which I'm sure members will have some pleasure in reading. But the party opposite is wrong to say that we don't believe in joint procurement, because our library service was jointly procured. Our valuation service jointly procured. Our pension service is shared with other boroughs. We already have other negotiations and discussions with boroughs on a service-by-service basis if there are synergies and there are savings to be made for both. What we are careful about is not to jump head-on in a partnership that may not be beneficial to this council, its residents, and its taxpayers. We don't believe in following others just because it might be the fashion of the day. On the IT review, again, with opposition support, they've accepted what we're doing, and they will note that we are in the middle of a procurement cycle. It's the wrong time to start changing the way in which we organize our IT facilities. On the office accommodation, again, opposition, if they're paying any attention, would have known that we have sweated our office accommodation regularly, and in fact 2 blocks across the road from there are nearly empty and will be soon empty and disposed, providing an income of capital receipt of £15 million and saving us £1 million in revenue costs. So, Mr. Mayor, there is much there, but if they think that their independent report is going to get them onto the right path, having lost their way, I can tell you that the 5 authors are hardly the way.
I would, if I may, concentrate on one element of the Leader's answer and ask a question about that, the point that he started with, because I think it exemplifies the nature of his answers written down for us here. He starts by saying that the Council has already been involved in joint procurement exercises. And my question is looking for something a little bit more deeper than that. Can he remind us, actually, if we just take the first procurement example he gives us, of joint procurement on library services with Croydon, and in the context of the fact that there are boroughs in London which are saving millions of pounds through joint procurement exercises, can he remind us how much money was reported to committee as saved as a result of that joint procurement with Croydon on library services? I do know the answer, by the way.
I thank Councillor Osborne for his question. It's an interesting way of asking a question to which you already know the answer. It's an interesting way of asking questions. But anyway, Mr. Mayor, in fact, you will remember, the Council will remember, that when we embarked on joint procurement with Croydon, the party opposite was constantly nitpicking on why Croydon? Why Croydon? Why Croydon? Because they were in hock to some sort of an arrangement that they had made with the cooperative council next door. Because Croydon and Lambeth had a dispute over a library on their borders, they thought that we shouldn't make a deal with Croydon. Well, we did, and in fact the savings of 1.4 million.
Second supplementary. Second supplementary, Mr. Mayor. Has the Leader noticed, as I have, that the word independent has subtly changed its meaning in recent times? that once upon a time it meant those of separate mind who would come to a view based on the evidence in front of them. It now seems to mean someone who fanatically believes in my prejudices, but who I am not actually paying at this moment in time. Would the leader care to say whether he feels the Labour Party is using the word independent in the former of those senses or the latter?
Well, the one sense in which they are using it is that anyone other than 13 of them is independent. So we could have written that report and we would have been independent.
Question number 2 to the leader, please.
Osborne for his second question. Well, Mr. Mayor, the details that Councillor Osborne seeks, again, I guess he already knows them because they are all in his report. So it's another one of those questions to which he knows the answer. These are not banker-size style bonuses. These are payments for staff who are part of our performance culture. These are payments to staff who deliver and deliver consistently. And I don't believe in this logic that if you pay those who are high achievers less money, they will continue to achieve and continue to be loyal and continue to be good servants. I don't think that logic stands the test.
Madam Mayor. Actually, it was reported committee that you saved £50,000 as a result of the joint procurement exercise, not 1.4 million, but never mind. Can I ask, as a supplementary on this question, does the leader think that it is in any way inappropriate for a public health authority, as this council has become, to give its senior members of staff private health insurance?
Well, I just go back to this 50,000 saving. Well, what is the point of procuring and nitpicking on each element of that exercise if you don't count the substantial saving that that procurement is supposed to deliver? As for private health, well, what we are interested in is the staff who work for us are well looked after and report for duty regularly and consistently. If they have any health condition, that they should actually have an early warning as early as possible so that they may be able to repair their health and return to work as quickly as possible. Because we are committed to supporting our staff, and our staff are committed to delivering the best services they can.
Supplementary, Mr. Mayor. Would the leader agree with me that in these difficult times caused by the Labour government bankrupting the country, wouldn't it be much better to, in a lean, well-organised organisation, to have quality staff to help us through these difficult times than to have perhaps like Brent that just has lots of quantity but no quality?
I thank Councillor Easter for his supplementary, and he makes exactly the right point. It is all about quality and not quantity. And of course, even on the quantity side, we win, because over the last few years, we have reduced our top-tier staffing considerably, saving £2 million in staffing costs. So there is not only quality but also quantity, but what we keep, we must keep the best and expect from them the best. That we do, and that I'm proud to say we have achieved.
Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To ask question 3 of the leader.
I thank Councillor Walsh for his question. And he asks about Labour Party's record on council tax. And of course, that's an important consideration for us. Over the last decade, we have raised council tax twice, but they have voted against and abstained and asked for variations on as many times as you see listed here. They have this time voted against nearly £30 million of savings, and yet they believe in sort of financial rectitude. Mr. Mayor, I believe the Labour Party offers nothing, whereas we offer actually a vision for our borough, vision beyond just looking after the council's finances. We want to improve lives and outcomes for our residents, and that is what we believe in. They, on the other hand, have become, sadly, a party of bean counters. And even as bean counters, they can't count well because their report has a £20 million hole in it.
Supplementary, Madam Mayor. Would you agree from the performance of the Labour Party about council tax that the message to the electorate is beware of imitations?
Indeed, that is the message, and I think the residents have, since 1978, understood where the low-tax brand stays safe and secure. And all these late conversions to the belief in low tax are false.
Second supplementary, Madam Mayor. Can I ask the leader, does he feel that his references in the written answer to March 2013 voted to increase the council's element of the council tax is perhaps a little disingenuous, given that this side voted to freeze the council tax at the level that it was at, and the fact that the mayor's precept had come down meant that our section of it went up a little bit, and at the same time, his side of the chamber voted to increase the council tax by 3.1%.
Well, Councillor Osborne knows exactly what was the decision that time. We froze our element of council tax and we passed on the increases from the levy boards to the residents, as we at that time believed we were entitled to and were able to. That's what the decision was, and that's what's recorded.
Councillor Carpenter.
Question 4 to the leader.
Carpenter for his question. The answer is set out as detailed here. Again, another one of those questions to which I think he knows the answer.
Supplementary.
Councillor Carpenter.
In the light of your answer to question 2, the cost of paying directly employed staff the London living wage would be roughly 3% of the amount we pay in performance-related pay. Does this not give an indication of the priorities of this administration in rewarding only those who are the fattest cats and forgetting about those on the lowest salaries?
Well, I think this is a refrain that I've heard from Councillor Carpenter before, and it goes back to my point about the party has become a party of bean counters.
Yes, thanks, supplementary, Mr. Mayor. Is the leader aware of a report that was prepared for the executive of Brent Council, which, funnily enough, is actually referred to in the Labour Party Commission's report? Is he aware that in paragraph 8.5 it says it would be unlawful for the council to adopt a blanket policy of applying a requirement that all its contractors pay the London living wage to their employees? Is he further aware that in para 8.9 it refers to a case before the European Court of Justice where a Polish subcontractor won a case against the German government in precisely these circumstances, in which the German local authority was demanding that they pay an equivalent of the living wage, and the European Court or the Court of Justice rather found against that. Is he further aware of the dangers that LLW in one can lead to a contractor paying different rates to employees doing the same job in different boroughs, which undoubtedly would lead to, in the words of this report to Brent Council, would undoubtedly lead to contractors requiring indemnity from the council? Does the leader agree with me, since this is the only document that the Labour Party care to use in supporting the London living wage in their own report, that this is a damning indictment of the practicalities of London living wage and anything else, which indeed, if we followed the Labour Party suggestion, would lead to this council breaking the law?
Councillor Govindia.
Order. Point of order, Mr. Mayor. The councillor is out of order. The councillor is talking about contracted staff. My question was about own staff.
Councillor Carpenter, what standing order was that?
The
I'm
point
asking
is
you
his
what
question
standing
is out of order on this question.
I'm asking what standing order.
Councillor Grimston, thank you very much for that supplementary, and I haven't had the chance to read in great detail all the outpourings from Brent Council. I just haven't got the will to live that long. But you make an absolutely correct point, that these are real challenges in trying to deliver what they think is a political objective. Now, what they don't understand is that in achieving their political objective, there are proper and legal hurdles, and they need to overcome that rather than just simply say, do it, everything will be all right on the day.
Councillor Caddy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Question 5 to the leader.
Councillor Caddy, for this question, which is very, very interesting, isn't it? I think I hesitated initially to see whether this question was one that we should try and answer, but given that Mr. Martin has given us enormous amount of advice on how to run our council, I thought better we should look more closely at the council he ran. So he ran this council for a very long time, during which his council's council tax went up and up and up, and leaving what? Sorry, I meant Mr. Daniel. My apologies. My apologies. Well, I have apologized, as you might have observed, unless you need to go to see an ear specialist. You also asked about severance packages, and the answer details that. And presumably in 2012, the severance package in Brent, well over £2.3 million, includes Mr. Daniel's package somewhere in there. Given that he was so well rewarded, presumably his package was a bit hefty in there too. Wandsworth residents would know that Brent is not a borough with which they would like to be compared. It is not a borough that delivers anything that they would want to be proud of. And this answer shows you exactly that. And this is a council whose chief executive led them astray and who now is leading them astray. Heaven forbid they have anything to do with running this council.
Supplementary, Mr. Mayor. I thank the leader very much for his answer. I wonder if he's able to say anything about the current remuneration arrangements of the chief executive of Brent.
That's interesting too, because as part of this kind of answering this question, I wanted to look at what the current remuneration arrangement for the current chief executive is. Well, the current chief executive of Brent Council is otherwise known as Mrs. McNulty. Mr. McNulty, you might remember, was a member of Parliament in Harrow, I think it is, until he stopped being one. Mrs. McNulty started in Brent on a personal contract, which I think means that you don't pay tax and things like that. And then her position was regularized. So that's an interesting and novel business-like approach to running a public service that Brent had established for their current chief executive.
Second, Councillor Daly.
Well, I mean, I have to say, I think this is all a bit pathetic. This is a personal attack on a personal attack on an individual who, if we mentioned any of our own officers by name and launched such a personal attack, we'd be hauled up in front of the Standards Committee. But on the substantive point,
What the question is, yes.
Yes, on the substantive point, I think you can see here that you're not comparing apples with apples, and I'm glad that you've highlighted that Wandsworth only paid its chief executive $529,104 over the last 2 years, compared to Brent's $634,000. Perhaps you'd reveal how much we paid our chief executive when you take out the severance package of that chief executive who you're looking at there. Once again, we know the answer.
I thank Councillor Daly for his question. What he's right about is not comparing apples with apples here. Of course, we are an apple and they are not an apple. That is true. We are the apple of our residents' eye, and they are not. I have to say, as for personal attacks, this is not. This is a factual information gleaned from public records. You know, Mr. Daniel has come to advise you, and through you, the resident of Wandsworth, how you would propose to run the council. And it is right that one should examine Mr. Daniels' contribution to running his previous authority. There is no personal attack in there. Everything here is factual and it's accurate and it's publicly available records, and it is one that people in Brent know, but I thought it was time people of Wandsworth should know.
Councillor Belton, question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ask question number 6 of the Leader.
I thank Councillor Belton for his question. The answer is as set out. In a nutshell, this is a dog that didn't bark.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I must say I'm disappointed. This must be one of the simplest questions to ask or to answer on the paper, and there is actually no answer at all. I'm glad that the Leader reiterates his commitment to a consultation, though I see no actual sign of it. It cannot possibly be the meeting of the Conservative Party candidates called in the town hall at a room that I don't know of, presumably expecting to have it free on taxpayers' money, and it is just inappropriate for an ex-mayor, amongst others. Does he not think that it's inappropriate for the ex-mayor, amongst others, to call a meeting at all our expenses in the town hall and publicise it? The only reason it didn't happen was because I brought it to his attention. Does he accept?
Is that the question?
And is it the case that all Conservative Party councillors will be warned off inappropriate use of public facilities at any time, but particularly in an election period?
I thank Councillor Belton for his supplement. Can I deal with all of those things? I mean, on the assertion he makes that we have not consulted, he's wrong. There is currently planning consultation going on, and it was in connection with the planning consultation that this meeting was arranged. There has been consultation between the Valuers Department and the landowners and other people in the neighbourhood and occupiers of the sites in question. So there has been extensive consultation at various levels between the council and the local residents. And in fact, it was because there has been consultation that there was a body of residents who came to the F-Cross before last. So there is no truth in your suggestion that there has been no consultation or there is little. As for this meeting, and I will be absolutely honest and open about this calling of this meeting was an error. It was an error between the Conservative Party office circulating the letter in misunderstanding of what the instructions to them were. As soon as I became aware, and yes, you in fact did share that letter with me, and as soon as I became aware, I took steps to make sure that this meeting did not take place. Indeed, the candidates and the former mayor, Councillor Knowles, has written to all those people who were previously written to advise them of both the meeting being cancelled and that further another opportunity will be found at no expense to this council to consult with them in his capacity as a candidate for Earlsfield Ward. And of course, when he becomes the councillor for Earlsfield Ward, he will continue to consult with them and continue to champion their cause in this borough. So, yes, you brought it to my attention. Yes, I took action. Yes, we made an error. We repaired it as soon as we could. And yes, my colleagues are well aware of what the rules are about using public resources during an election campaign, or for that matter, at any time.
Is there a second supplementary?
Supplementary, Madam Mayor.
I think Councillor Grimston just did.
Really?
He really did.
I was surprised you say that, but never mind.
No, I'm not.
So thank you, sir.
Beat you to it.
Just a question to the Leader. It may actually be a question to the Standards officers as well. On more than one occasion, I've met with residents of my ward, most recently over the development of the St John Bosco site, where I met with, I guess, half a dozen of them in the members' room one morning, and I did indeed give them council-funded coffee as a result of this. I must admit it hadn't struck me at the time that I was doing anything particularly undemocratic or wrong. I'd appreciate the Leader's view on that, and indeed, is there a systematic difference between one councillor inviting half a dozen residents and another councillor inviting more than half a dozen residents to discuss planning issues of importance within this council's area?
I thank Councillor Grimston for his supplement, and I think he is right that all colleagues, both sides, regularly have meetings with residents, and from time to time we offer modest hospitality. I think that will be a perfectly acceptable way in which we conduct our business, and our residents would not begrudge us or begrudge themselves access to that kind of modest hospitality. I think there was a fundamental, crucial difference in this situation, and that this was a meeting called by the party machine on party paper, and I think the appropriate action was taken, and I think the difference is noted.
Thank you, councillors. The time for questions to the leader is now over.